The crew's trapped in a tight space. By what curious drama this episode makes. Now there's pretenders and storms abound. Will they all survive after being found? I'm Josh.
I'm Justin.
And this is From There to Here. Alright, so today's episode is Season 2, Episode 12. It's called The Catwalk, and according to the IMDb, this is what it's about. After receiving a warning about a radioactive storm approaching Enterprise, the crew is forced to take shelter in the ship's catwalk. And on the IMDb, this is rated... What is it rated?
8.1.
Much lower than you think.
7.5.
7.4.
Okay.
It's not bad.
No?
I would suspect a little bit higher.
I would have thought.
This is quite a jump up from last week's Precious Cargo, which was 6.4. So
Yes.
What do you have?
Not a whole lot. There was not a lot of information on this. It took 8 days to film. Existing sets were used for the first 3 days of filming, but new sets for the catwalk, built especially for this episode, spanned 2 sound stages and were named Catwalk 3, Catwalk 5, Catwalk Command, and Catwalk Infirmary, which was interesting. And I guess a little piece of trivia that you and I realized, one of the aliens that boards the ship, halfway through the episode, was I was wearing it when I was changed.
Which is who? We need to explain that. Okay.
He doesn't have a name. He's
the Romulan captain.
He is the captain?
He's the captain.
He's the Romulan captain in the Star Trek Next Generation episode, The Next Phase, where Geordi and Ro are phased, and there's a Romulan on board that is also phased, but he's kind of been hiding out the whole time, and he's got a weapon, and at one point they turn to him, and he goes, "Yes, I was wearing it when I was changed."
No, okay. Yeah,
Am I close?
You were close.
Right.
You were like, yes, this disruptor works.
That's right.
I was wearing it when I was changed.
He had a very notable delivery, which
his
struck
speech
us.
patterns and his mouth movement was very unique.
You and I were curious about the alien captain guy. So I looked him up.
His voice is familiar.
Well, it should be, because he played aliens on both Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Like a Hirogen, and I want to say it was a Cardassian for Deep Space Nine. So his voice would have definitely shown through. And he must have been good friends with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Phil? No. Who directed The Fugitive? What's his name? I know his name. I'm looking.
Well, what does this matter?
Andrew Davis, because he was in both The Fugitive and Chain Reaction.
Who was he in The Fugitive?
In The Fugitive, he played the head Illinois State Trooper, and he in Chain Reaction, he played someone named Clancy Butler, who was probably some sort of trooper. So... we knew his face. We knew the guy.
Okay.
Anyway, that was it.
All right. Well, this is I was about to say a big improvement from last week, although that's not correct, because I enjoyed last week's episode.
Yeah, it was not bad.
It was the internet that disagreed with us.
Yes, it did.
Like, very much so. This episode is much better.
Definitely an improvement.
It's what you call a bottle show.
It is a bottle show, yet ironically, it took 2 sound stages worth of building new material for them to have. So it was, yes, it's a bottle show, but they had to spend 4 days of filming, 4 or 5 days at 5 days of filming on brand new sets. So is it really a bottle show if you think about it?
Oh, so is it only considered a bottle show if they do it on existing sets?
Well, I think that's one of the stipulations of being a bottle show. I remember reading in one of the, nerd Trek books that we had growing up, that when the TNG producers came up with the idea for Power Play, they thought, okay, yes, good bottle show. It all takes place in 10 forward. It'll cost $10. But they didn't account for all the phaser fire, which cost a tremendous amount of money.
You would look at that and you would think that costs a lot of money.
Well, then it did.
Back then.
Now I could render that on my computer and it would look fine. But back then, that was a big deal. And of course, they had to have that like whole opening.
15-year-old with Adobe Premiere could do it.
Could do that with their eyes closed. Yeah. But they also had the beginning on the crashed planet, which was their Planet Hell set, which was a standing set. So what they thought was going to be a bottle show turned out to be quite expensive, but also one of the better TNG
Well, actually,
episodes.
I remember what that book said. It was the least costly episode of the season.
Oh, well, go figure.
So they did save money.
Right.
But it still did
not as much as they had hoped.
It cost more than they had imagined.
Can't we have them fire off screen?
Or, even when it comes to... I'm sure they didn't want to do too many transporter effects or...
Yeah. It all adds up.
Yeah, instead of putting the shuttlecraft on a gyro, they're like, just spin the camera around. That's
spin it around.
It'll look fine. Don't worry about it. It won't look goofy at all. Don't worry about it. No one will be able to spot that.
It was 90s television. Come on. It was good for its day.
Yeah. But for Riker's arm, though, for realism, Jonathan Frakes insisted that they really break his arm.
Yes. He said, put me in the shuttle and drop me from a very high...
Oh, okay. We're getting distracted here. We don't do that. We're talking about
we're on target.
We're talking about stay on target. We're getting to the
almost there.
We're getting to the catwalk here.
Yeah.
This is probably the best episode that we've watched in a little while, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say by and large the second season was a good run so far. But yes, this I think was definitely a standout. Mm-hmm. And goes back to one of the things that I highlight whenever it comes up, which is this is the kind of episode Enterprise as a show should have done more of.
Exactly.
Not being trapped in the catwalk, but something where they just don't have the technology to beat this thing and they got to come up with some other solution, And
they have to use their ingenuity.
Yeah. Yes. And they're literally, like T'Pol said, or Archer said, this is kind of like camping. This was everybody.
I wish they would have started singing John Jacob Jingle Hammerschmidt.
La, 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 la. You would have heard someone in the background doing it. Yeah, that would have been great. She should have said, I researched camping information, and I'm curious, who is John Jacob Jingle Hammerschmidt? Oh, I know him, yes. Yeah. We went to school together. Good guy.
Right.
Good with kids.
I think this is the best episode from this season since the 7th.
Yeah.
Not that the ones, in between haven't been fine.
No, but it's a standout.
Yeah, it's definitely a standout.
Yeah, just like the 7th was.
As we pointed out when we were watching it, that teaser much more effective than last week's teaser, which was just Trip playing the harmonica and he looks out and he sees a ship.
Oh, it's a ship. All right.
Hey, what do you want me to do with the ship, Captain?
Yeah.
Which sounds nothing like this.
I know. We can never get Trip.
All we do is a Texas caricature.
Yeah.
Which is really bad.
Well, it's amusing. But no, you're right. Finally, they got a teaser. It wasn't much. It's still only like a minute long. But did you actually notice? It was a very interesting opening. It started with a long, not really long, but a dolly shot where, I don't know if you can call it a dolly shot, but it starts with the camera looking up high, or I'm sorry, low, looking at a shuttle, and you see Travis inside working on the shuttle. Camera pans up, catches Captain and Trip as they walk along one of the second floor things, come down, and the camera whips around to the side of the shuttle, and you see them crawl inside the top, because you can actually board the shuttle from the top. They crawl inside. Meanwhile, the shuttle bay door is open, so you see them crawl in. Another guy comes out, and then as the camera actually does push in, and right as Archer answers the little 90s computer monitor, then it cuts to a close-up. But I just thought it was an interesting, shot.
I wish I had been paying attention.
Yeah.
Clearly, I remember it starting off in that way, but I guess I wasn't paying attention to the mechanics of the shot.
Yeah, I thought
now I feel like an uneducated rube. Was it you mean like it was a handheld thing, or was it like tracking on a...
It looked like it was tracking on some... It looks like it was on probably like a dolly track that was maybe C-shaped by the seashore. And the way it whipped around looked like it was probably up high, a little bit raised, and then came down and turned and went along the dolly path. Is what it looked like to me.
Well, something that you pointed out that we this is out of the umpteenth time we brought it up was the color scheme of the show. You recognized something.
Well, I was watching. I've been on a TNG kick lately, and I've been particularly enjoying the first 2 seasons of TNG, which you and I have talked about at length, and have both.
Let me go on a quick digression.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Justin, for some strange reason, asked me if you were going to be stuck on a desert island and you could only take one Star Trek series with you.
I started with 1 season
of
a Trek
Well, it was one
series.
season of a Trek series, and I chose TNG. And I thought for a minute, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go against the prevailing winds, season 2.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, that's interesting.
I wasn't dismissive.
No,
just
you
like,
weren't.
Okay.
You're like, okay, you didn't expect me to say
No.
that. I said,
No,
no,
I didn't
season
see that
2.
coming.
I was like, trust me, season 2. It's like, there's a lot of good ones in there. And it's got that flavor that it loses in its later seasons. It still has a more cinematic look to it, and in terms of photography too. But then we pulled up the episode list, one by one by one. Like, God,
They were all good.
Like, there was 1 or 2 that were like so, but like all of them
Yeah.
were like so good. You're like, man, season 2 is awesome. Why is it so maligned?
I
It's
don't
not
know.
fair.
But in watching those first 2 seasons, which do have a different look, they, like you said, that they had a very filmic look to their photography. Just something very appealing, very visually appealing. And it made me think, because of course we've been watching our Enterprise episodes, and we've commented more than once that we don't really like the way it looks. It has kind of a washed out look. And I was like, why? So in watching one of those Trek episodes, I realized, man, it's super contrasty in the best way. So I pulled up one of the episodes, just put it on the TV. I was like, oh yeah, its contrast is really low. So it looks very washed out. No, I shouldn't say very washed out, but it looks washed out. If you were to jump between an episode of Enterprise and an episode of TNG, hell, any TNG episode or Voyager, Enterprise looks incredibly washed out. And I really cannot fathom why they shot it that way. Or I shouldn't say shot it that way, why they, finished it in that way.
In post.
In post.
They adjusted it for
Yeah.
some reason.
So actually, just for fun, I threw it into my Power Editor editing program and played around with some of the settings, and it came to life. And as you and I were watching the Catwalk just now, I was reminded, you'll probably remember this. You know how, I think it's still the case now, but things are shot digitally now, so kind of everything looks the same. But back in the day, you could tell that a show was on CBS. You could tell that a show was on NBC or Fox, or in this case, UPN. Just like if I can spot a New Line Cinema movie anywhere, they have a look. I don't know why. They're shot by different filmmakers. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know why.
You're saying these studios don't have distinctive looks anymore?
Not the way they used to. They kind of do in a way now, but it's not the same. And UPN had a look, and one of the
Oh yes, it did.
yes, it did
look.
And one of the signals of that was it looked washed out.
All of it did?
A lot of it. Like I remember watching episodes of Team Knight Rider, for example. UPN washed out.
Does anyone remember Team Knight Rider?
I don't know. I don't know why that's the one that popped into my head, but it had a look and it was washed out. Like to the point where I actually wonder, was their mastering studio monitors, were they calibrated wrong? Were they calibrated super dark where they felt they had to boost it up to look right, but then on everyone else's TV it looked washed out? I don't know, but it had a look, and this had it. It does have it throughout its whole run.
I don't think so. I think what we're missing here is that maybe there's an overall like a filter.
I don't know.
Filter isn't the right word. In color correcting, there's things called LUTs,
Right.
LUT means something. I can't remember what it means, but LUT.
Luminance something.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can apply. And you can adjust the intensity of it, but it'll add a kind of color grading to it, a scheme of color grading. And I think that's probably what each studio had. They had like a color grading template that they probably threw on there to give their stuff a similar look. I think that's what we got with UPN and Enterprise.
I don't know. I mean, to go back to those New Line Cinema ones, for example, whenever I would see one of those movies, they were very contrasty, for one, and they tended towards the darker side, like shadow crushing, and they had that look. They're not the only studio that did, but they had that look of being over sharpened, and that seemed to be something that's just how their studio chose to put out their movies. Universal, for the longest time, when they were putting out their Blu-rays, they all had that look. They had that over-sharpened look, and it really is ugly. But some monitor somewhere, it looked good, but they kept doing it. Even though every review you'll ever see says, God, these look like garbage, they still kept doing it. So anyway, it's just something that I noticed that I played with.
Long story short,
and realized it could be adjusted, and it does improve.
Well, you're gonna have to show me this.
Yeah,
it does look. Now that you actually use precise language to describe the look, I was like, it does look flat.
Yeah,
it does look washed out. You're right, and I don't like it. But having said that, did Voyager look as washed out as this?
No,
because Voyager was on UPN, of course, too.
That's true. It was. No, and it did not have that look.
It was it must have come after they started the company, because Voyager was UPN's like flagship show. That's
right.
What they started the
whole thing.
So
maybe that was still kind of under the old guard of shooting or whatever.
Yeah, they had not come up with it yet.
Yeah.
Whatever system they ended up using, they had not come up with it yet, because Voyager opened up in 95, I think, and Enterprise was what? I don't know. What year was that? 2000, 1999? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Around about 2000-ish.
It had to have been like 99 or something like that. I don't know. Either way, something like that. And so it must have been something they adopted later. Clearly.
Yes, I agree. And then once the look was established for Voyager, they're not going to change it.
That's true. Well, back to the Catwalk.
Yeah.
This is one of those episodes that I think is notable for its efficiency. Like, it really gets in quick. Tells the teaser is it's not the best teaser, but it sets up the stakes very simply. And then the first act brings in the guest stars, the guy who turn out to be fugitives.
Right.
Oh, but they're just angels. They're just nice guys. They're just they didn't get along with their superior officers because they were bad. They were the bad guys, right?
Right.
So they say, wink. Who knows? But we'll never know. Anyway, when they come in, they explain the situation, and they're within a few minutes of montages and whatnot. We're in that catwalk.
Well, I enjoyed the montages. I even pointed out the music.
Oh, you did, yeah, which is not something you point out often.
No, and I a lot of times with any show, but Trek especially, they'll reuse musical cues, and I don't remember ever hearing that music before or after. And it was like that running of the guns, kind of a thing. Dun dun, it was great. It wasn't long, but it was great. It was different.
There's another cue in there when it was when Trip had he left the catwalk. There was a nice musical beat when he was trying to evade the alien crew that had boarded the ship.
Yeah,
and that was nice. It was not a typical beat that I would hear often. But aside from the efficiency, this is another thing we've brought up before, where we like to see the crew just be the crew.
Yeah.
Just let them do small things. Like there's a moment where they're in the catwalk and they're playing cards, and they're using like their rations, as things to bet with.
Well, I made a little note for something I did want to talk about having to do with that. It was right about that same scene. It was the young ensign woman that stopped Archer.
Oh, right. Yes.
And she asked him, "Oh, hey," she was looking at a pad, was it trivia or a book she was reading something.
I think she was doing a crossword
puzzle.
Yeah.
And she's, "Hey, Cat," and Archer spots her. "Hey, what are you doing over there?" She's like, "Do you remember the name of this Vulcan? Last name ends with an R." And they just have like a quick little dialogue about it. And I thought it was, and she asked something like, "Are we going to be okay?" He goes, "Yeah, we're going to be fine." And you see the look of concern on her face. And I was like, "Oh, that was good. That was good." They didn't overplay it either. It was done just right. And it was just a human moment. And I enjoyed that, just like what you're talking about. They're playing cards and betting with rations, things like that. Just kind of hanging out.
Well, I think
nothing else to do.
I'm glad that they kept the progress of the plot moving at a pretty good clip.
Yes.
The episode was never boring.
No.
But, that being said, I felt like maybe there was a few missed opportunities where they could have maybe explored that tight space a little bit more. We've got the whole crew jammed into this catwalk.
Yeah.
All of our main characters are stuck together. It could be a situation. They could set up situations for characters to interact in a way that they normally hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was missed a little bit. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, they could have given Hoshi something to do, and they really didn't.
I'm fine with that.
Something.
I think, this ventures into like writer's room territory, but now that I think about it, the idea that they picked up these passengers, and these passengers end up being the same species that they of the alien group that boards the ship and all that, that all makes sense plot wise and all that. But maybe they could have had this happen without those guys, jumping onto the ship. That way, that screen time could be spent.
So no fugitives at all?
No, the ship could be boarded later, but maybe just have it where there was that wave and they were like, "We can't get out. This is what we're going to do." They buttoned up. They do the same thing.
I don't know if that would have worked as well. I mean, admittedly, that wrench in the story, for lack of a better metaphor, of those fugitives is we don't know who they are.
Right.
But we know what the crew doesn't know, which is that they aren't who they say they are. And that adds some tension to what's happening.
Yeah, but it doesn't really go anywhere with any substance.
It doesn't have to go anywhere profound, and it doesn't.
No.
It resolves itself in that they do tell us what we assume to be the truth.
Right.
So,
but had they gone a slightly different way with it, then they could have given that screen time to everyone, essentially camping out.
But well, my point of bringing that up is if they had excised that, what would add drama and suspense to an already suspenseful situation? Because we don't see this storm when they're in that catwalk. We know they're going through it. We suspect they're going to be okay.
Well, you have those occasional tremors that are happening, which remind them that there's the storm outside.
But that foreign element, I understand why they put that in there. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't work if we removed it, but
and I'm not saying it's bad for being in there.
No.
Just as an idea of how you could squeeze in that stuff that you're talking about while not.
I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't have been as dramatic if that was removed. If it was if it was the crew having intermittent conversations where we jump maybe from one handful of crew members to the next, and then, they find out they've been boarded, it would feel like the show's going nowhere.
Right.
So I don't know what we could really do to make that work, unless we put in some other kind of element that would be as suspenseful.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or that would add that dramatic tension. Suspense isn't the right word. Mystery. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be mystery necessarily. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't want the episode to take on too much of a lighthearted approach with them having, maybe silly conversations, because they're in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few moments here and there where they do that. I mean, where what like we just said, they're playing like poker and they're using their rations. They're having a little bit of fun. They're someone like I think someone rolled their eyes at the thought of having to watch The Day the Earth Stood Still, and they're like, "What? That's a good movie. What's your problem?"
Right.
And then Archer's trying to watch water polo on his iPad, and it's like
he's irritating to Paul.
She irritates him, and it's like, okay, that was cute. Was that enough? What do you think about it?
I mean, it was fine. I didn't find the episode lacking, but since you mentioned it, sure, I would have liked even more. Close quarters shenanigans and goings on.
Well, one is it a plot hole? I guess, which was something I thought of. There's 2 catwalks, right?
Well, you and I talked about
there should
that.
be.
Yes.
They only use one. So
yeah,
what's the deal with that? Your suggestion was, why not have Paul be in command of the other one?
Yeah.
Archer is the main one.
Then they wouldn't be so cramped.
Exactly, because space is at a premium. But then again, well, I guess they could divide their resources, but you couldn't have flocks in both places.
I was thinking about that. And, although they don't actually show it, he cannot be the only medical person on that ship.
You mean there has to be like
there's got to be a
backup
nurse or something, someone.
If there is, they've never talked about it.
I mean, look at Voyager.
About it.
Paris
is the
they
backup.
had to train Paris to be a medical backup.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be someone. There has to be.
Yeah, someone that's trained in
yes,
maybe not as wide a berth as he is.
Right, just like Paris.
But
he wasn't a doctor, but he was really, really good. He could handle most things.
Emergency situations.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like you broke a leg, he can fix that.
But it's not something this show ever, this series ever addresses, as far as I know.
Not that I remember.
Yeah,
anyway.
like even in TNG, we would see Crusher with nurses.
Yeah, there's other people there.
other male
Ogawa
doctors.
becomes a big deal.
Nurse Ogawa. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Bonus question: what is Nurse Ogawa's first name?
Does it start with an I?
No.
C?
No.
I don't know.
Alyssa
Ogawa. There you
Yes.
go. Very good. I was way off. Way off. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I never felt like this episode really slowed down. Even when we got into the action parts of the episode, I thought it was fine. Comparing it to Vanishing Point, which was Hoshi's episode,
right,
a few episodes back, I thought that first half was fine, but then we got into the second half where it was supposed to be action and running around. It just didn't work. It fell flat. Right. Here, it was just enough and it worked. I mean, you got a very bad situation where they're stuck in a small space. They can't leave. And this crew is taking over their ship. They have to get it back. The lights are turned off. They've got the night lights on. It's kind of cool. They got to reclaim their ship. This was interesting. The stakes are incredibly high.
Right.
They were able to make it work for this episode. What were you going to say?
Just that the action towards the end, the firefight, I think it was between Archer and some of the guys.
Oh yeah,
was a little weak sauce. In my opinion.
No, it was fine. It lasted like 5 seconds. It was fine.
I don't know. I just felt it visually uninteresting.
It was fine. It wasn't Hoshi trying to be John McClane. It was fine.
No. It didn't have to be fancy. I don't know what it could have been. They were fighting like across the galley.
Oh, was it the galley?
The kitchen.
Was it that? Okay.
I think so. And I don't know. You couldn't. I know the lights are off, ironic, but you couldn't see very well. I don't know how to explain.
There was a shot.
It was a little weak.
It has nothing to do with the firefight, but there was a shot in. This is when the alien crew took over the Enterprise, and the alien captain is in Archer's quarters.
Yeah.
He's talking to his number one, and the captain gets up, walks over to where there's very little light.
It was all shadow.
And he was all in shadow. His number one asked him a question, and his silhouette turns around. It's not a silhouette. Well,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. He's completely out of the light, and all you see is the shape of his body, and he responds. And I was like, ooh, they should have done more stuff like that.
I know.
That was cool.
I know.
They hardly play with light. I was like,
I know. That would have
awesome.
been great.
Yeah, I think maybe the cinematographer, the photographer, their DP is getting a little like, can I turn off a few lights here?
Play with this just a little?
It's like, you have no idea what you're missing.
Yeah. No, I agree. That shot was great.
Yeah.
I wish there had been more like that.
Well, speaking of the writer's room, is there anything other than kind of what we brought up, that we think we really want to alter with this episode?
No. I mean, other than what I thought was a slightly weak sauce firefight
Yeah.
at the end. No, I thought the episode was really good.
What about the three fugitives? Were they good enough?
Honestly, just okay. Commit to it one way or the other. Make them be good guys. Make them be bad guys.
You felt like they tried to play it both ways?
A little bit, but they weren't super interesting. Maybe it was that the actors themselves were just kind of ho-hum.
Kind of bland?
Yeah, I don't know.
One of them was familiar.
Yeah, one of them, I forget what I know him from. But, oh, wait a minute. Wasn't one of them, that was, what's his name? O'Brien's trainee. What's his name? Deep Space Nine. That got shot. And Kike. Remember? Enrique, but they called him Kike.
Was that in the ship?
Yeah, the ship. The episode The Ship.
That was him?
I think so. I think that was him.
Okay, maybe I'm not seeing it, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I think it was him. You know the guy I'm talking about, though.
I know, but okay.
In the Deep Space Nine episode, you don't know who I'm talking about?
Yes, maybe I'm seeing somebody else's face right now. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the ship.
Look at that. That was a really good firework. That was a good one. And then O'Brien looking down on him. Yeah, that was a good one, all right. Because he knows Kike's going to die.
Yeah.
It's good. No, pretty sure that was him. But no, they were just okay. They were fine. I mean, at this point, I would say I'm nitpicking it.
Yeah.
But they were just kind of ho-hum to me.
Well, I thought it was all right.
If you're going to have a situation like that where you're going to question what these guys are all about, you need to go the way they did in that movie Shoot to Kill, where you don't know who the killer is in this group of guys, but they cast every guy that was cast in this group of guys had all played the main villain in some other movie. So you genuinely had no idea who the bad guy was. Do it that way. Cast a bunch of guys. Cast Robert O'Reilly.
Cast some guys that look suspicious.
Cast guys that are interesting looking. Robert O'Reilly, man, he looks crazy. Cast him. That way you just don't know, and do that. Just cast someone interesting, it's interesting.
Yeah,
face.
I guess they could have played a little bit more with that. With the casting. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Give us some actors that really we maybe have a distrusting look off the top of the top of things, but maybe if they could have thrown a scene or two of maybe something the crew is seeing from them, or maybe the interactions between those
that
fugitives
looks suspicious,
that appears suspicious, so we get like some distrust, like are these people who they say they are, or what are their intentions? I'm not so sure anymore.
Of course.
But they didn't really they didn't do that.
No.
Like there was, all they really did was while they were in the catwalk, these fugitives put up blankets to kind of block themselves off from the crew, and then they were cooking at one point, and they weren't supposed to be. And other than that, they were pretty placid there.
Exactly. So
do
something interesting with it. When Archer's walking by and he stops and he talks to Trip, Trip starts complaining that they're alien visitor guys. He's like, they only sleep once a week, so they're up all night and they're making all these weird sounds with their rituals and their chantings and whatever. So as the camera's walking by, you have those curtains up, have weird sounds coming out, boop, 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 and have everyone just be like, what in God's name is going on in there? Don't talk about it, show it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit more for that, I think, would have made that part of the plot a bit more interesting. Anything else you wanted to alter?
No.
Okay.
Well, solid episode, so no.
Pretty much. That's what happens when we get an episode that's solid. There's
only so much to talk about.
Well, it's because,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Far less to nitpick. I mean, we can talk about things we like, but how long do people want to listen to people talk about that? All in all, it's a good episode.
Yeah.
So, what would you grade it?
Oh, I'd say we're in A territory. So I'm going to say either A minus or an A. I'm gonna say an A minus.
I'll give it an A.
Okay.
I think it's pretty solid.
It is. I mean, I kind of wavered a little bit there. I would say maybe just because there was a couple little things maybe they could have just tweaked up a little bit. Maybe that doesn't deserve it knocking down to an A minus. I mean, I could go with an A too.
I thought they had a premise that was different, and I think they
did
used
well with it
to very very good effect, and they were efficient. It was a tight script.
Yeah.
My usual go-to feeling is, did I ever feel bored? And I didn't.
Right.
So I was entertained. And if it feels, it is, you're having a hard time if you're finding yourself just like constantly checking the time. How long till it's over?
You and I, another sign of that is you and I start making jokes throughout the episode. And we were pretty much in the episode.
Yeah, that happened. Like, I mean, what was it? Civilization. We start making cracks.
Yeah.
Like, this is like watching paint dry. Like, is Archer going to sleep with this woman? Oh, of course he's going to.
Right, right.
And this, no, we were pretty quiet.
Yeah.
All right. So A and A minus.
I'll give it an A.
2 A's.
I'll give it an A.
Okay. Did you have any awards?
I didn't want to. I was actually going to bring this up as the episode was playing, but I didn't want to interfere with the process. But I think we should make one because
another one.
Yes, I think we need to make one for this. This one kind of falls a little outside of it, but within all of Trek, there are episodes where the whole crew has to be tucked away on the ship because the ship is going somewhere dangerous. So in Voyager, there's the episode where they're all put to sleep in their own little pods.
Sure.
There's a later episode of Enterprise when they're all put to sleep, I think in their quarters though, and it's only T'Pol and the Doctor, only you realize the Doctor was actually fake the whole time.
Oh, right.
I know there's others, I feel like. So I feel like just like the Soapy Chakotay.
I don't think we're going to run into this enough to where we're going to award it, but
I feel like this episode, what would you call it?
We just called it out, like all the ones that where it happened. So
there's got to be more, right?
I mean, do you just want to call it break it down to when just a large group of people are being collectively put down or secured away for some reason? Is that what you want to do with it?
Yeah, I guess. What would we call that?
Oh gosh, what would we call that? How about
the Sleeping Beauty Award? No, because they're not always asleep.
They're being stored away. So, what is there a movie where people are like being
the Safety Not Guaranteed Award?
Safety not guaranteed
because they're stored away, but their safety is not necessarily guaranteed. I don't know.
I mean, that's not bad.
Maybe it's not worth an award, like you said. It was just a thought.
Okay. Oh, if it's a trope, we can name it, though.
Well, yeah.
That's true. I'm not sure.
I guess we'll have to come back to it on that one.
Okay. Did you have
trivia?
Well, not trivia, but did you have any moments or any lines you wanted to highlight?
I mean, I enjoyed the scene between Archer and T'Pol where they were irritating each other.
Yeah, that was good. That was one of my favorite scenes too.
Yeah. Outside of that, honestly, the montage I enjoyed, especially because of the music when they were getting onto the catwalk. I thought it was really good.
I had I did have one award.
Okay.
The Shatner Award for Best Dramatic Performance goes to Archer.
Let me guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it the scene where he's on the view screen talking to the alien captain?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was very Shatner-esque. Get out of my chair. Yeah, he has to act like he's dying. I'm going to get you out of there. I'm going to...
Yeah. It was a little cheese ball.
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Maybe Scott Bakula doesn't do a good job of pretending like he's acting, right?
Yeah. he does have a very distinctive way of doing that, just like Pierce Brosnan doesn't do pain very well.
Pierce Brosnan doesn't
he has that look that like
I think
it's like
about?
memes where there's for example, there's a scene in The World Is Not Enough where he's strapped to a chair and a giant screw is being slowly worked into his neck, and all it takes is just the right amount of churning of it and it'll snap his neck.
Okay.
And he does Pete, no one can see this, but he does this. He goes, he does this open mouth, like very awkward looking thing. And even though he's not in pain, he does that same look in his remake of the one where he steals the paintings. The Thomas Crown Affair. When Rene Russo pours like champagne on him, he's like it's a sex scene, and he's on his hands and knees, and she pours the champagne on him, and it's just liquid falling on his head, and he goes, and it's kind of known that he has this very awkward face that he does. I don't know why he does it, why people let him do it. It looks really bad.
It's kind of like when Steven Seagal runs. Like, is that what it is?
Yeah.
You're a great looking guy. Just don't run.
Don't run.
Or don't make that face pierce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
It's just like, Patrick Stewart fighting. Oh. It just don't do it.
No, it doesn't. And he's stiff. He's stiff.
Very stiff.
Very stiff. He should take a movement course.
You would think.
Maybe he never did. I don't know. Figured everyone at that level of acting would have.
Yeah.
He didn't go to Juilliard.
I don't know. I'm just something prestigious.
He went to like the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so when it comes to scenes, I liked this was more of lines of like lines, not scenes, but at the very end of the episode, they're finally all together for movie night.
Yeah.
And they're watching what appears to be like a cheesy Western.
I thought it was maybe Shane, maybe?
I don't know, but the crew doesn't seem to be enjoying it.
No, they weren't into it.
And I guess it's Malcolm and Tripp. They're confused about the plot, but then T'Pol, who's also watching, which is rare for T'Pol,
right?
She says, well, clearly the bad guy was working with Sheriff Boggs. And they're like, really? He's like, well, obviously. Can't you tell? And they're like completely mystified.
I know that name, Sheriff Boggs. I feel like that's a famous Western, like Shane.
Okay. Well, another great scene we just mentioned that was T'Pol and Archer kind of they're stuck in the same area. I guess they sleep right beside each other.
Well, at least they didn't sandwich them next to each other and have him fall asleep in her boobs.
They're in a corridor, and it's like they're on opposite ends of it, so there's plenty of space. But he's lying back. I guess he's getting ready to go to bed. So he's like,
puts on the game.
You put on a little something to get your eyes tired. He's watching water polo on a pad, but it looks like he's watching it on his iPhone. Yeah. And that's like
same
what sort of people do today. And she's like doing her little beep, 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 beep on her pad. He's getting annoyed by her. She's getting annoyed by him. But as I said to you during the episode, in the future, again, women just won't let men watch their sports. Got to ruin it. One other line I thought was a funny line. It was somewhere maybe in the first act when they just had gotten in the catwalk. Everyone's kind of settling in, and Malcolm goes up to the doctor. He's like, "Hey, doctor, I was wondering if you could give me something." And Phlox is like, "Would it be something to do with gastrointestinal distress?" He's like, "Yes. How could you tell?" So that was good. I thought that was
that was kind of cute.
That was a funny moment. For trivia, yes, I do have some. Do you?
I do,
because we unfortunately we haven't received any more trivia from Marissa yet.
Yeah,
so
what's going on?
Yeah, we are. By the time we're recording this, we are recording this a little earlier than we usually do.
True.
So she hasn't had the time to get the trivia together yet. So hopefully by the next time we record, she will have had the time to gather some up. So what'd you have?
All right, first thing. What night do they traditionally have movie night
Tuesday.
On Enterprise? Very good. Okay. What substance in the makeup of the warp engines allows them to safely hide in the catwalk? What's it made of that, protects them from the storm's radiation or whatever you want to call it?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Osmium alloy.
Oh boy, I never would have gotten that. Osmium?
Osmium.
Osmium, not
Alloy.
unobtainium.
No. Okay. The aliens that they pick up.
Mm-hmm.
What do they claim they do as a profession?
Ooh. Well, one of them said he was a. Well, maybe
I think the implication was that they were all said to be this.
Oh,
thing.
it was stellar cartography.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they came from where?
Oh, this is one of my questions.
I thought it might be
The Techron system.
the Techrid system.
Ah,
system.
yeah.
Okay. Last one. What was the name of the ritual that they were performing that Trip and other people found so annoying and offensive?
Oh, holy cow! They named it.
They did.
The Shirkum.
The Kazwan ritual.
Oh, wait. That was mine. That was one of mine. Oh, no. I wrote that down. I forgot.
You know, I was watching you, and I kind of had the sneaky feeling, because like something they would say a term like that, and I would try and be discreet with my phone so you didn't know that I was writing it down, because I thought if he sees me doing that, he's going to remember that line. And then I saw you going for your phone around the same times I did.
Yes. Sometimes I'll wait a little
So
bit.
will I.
So you
I'll
won't
wait a
think that-
minute.
Yeah,
I know,
right.
but I think we're doing the same thing to the point where we're figuring it out.
Okay, so I had 5 questions. 2 of them we both had. So I'll do the remaining 3. About how hot does it get in the catwalk when the engines are engaged?
300 degrees?
300 degrees. Pretty toasty, as Trip would say. Let's see. When Trip has to leave the catwalk, he has to put on a suit.
Yeah.
About how many minutes will that protection...
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah. How many
Is
minutes
it
of protection
26
will the suit-
minutes?
Close.
27?
22
Okay.
minutes of protection. Okay, this one might be a little harder. Okay, in that scene where we talked about the alien captain and his number one in Archer's quarters, they were trying to get the warp engine active. They were talking about that.
Right.
What did his number one tell him was the problem he was having?
That
He was having a problem with a particular part of the engine.
I don't know, but was he wearing it when he was changed? I have no idea.
The dilithium matrix.
Oh, of course it was. That old dilithium matrix chamber.
Yeah,
Quite a tricky beast.
that old chestnut.
Yep.
Well, that was it. That's all I have.
Okay.
I guess that's it. That's all
I
we
guess
have.
that wraps it
yeah,
up.
What's next?
I don't know. It feels so empty now without Marissa's trivia
Got used to it.
and comments. I know.
Yeah, we had 3 in a row where it was
Yeah, it's kind of disheartening. So I did look. The next episode is Dawn, which happens to be the episode where Trip
that's the
is
one.
on the planet with that guy. So and they were one episode apart from each other.
That's why.
Man, easy to get those confused. Yeah, that would explain why they spent so little time on that set in Precious Cargo, because they knew they were going to use it an episode later. It's probably the exact same set.
Might be.
I would bet money that it is.
Dawn. Is it like...
They probably even filmed those back to back and just aired out of order.
You think so?
Why wouldn't you have a standing set like that? They're going to use it and then tear it down. They got to move on. I'll bet that's what they did.
Maybe the trivia for Dawn will tell us that.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really thought... I had no idea it was going to be so soon. I wonder if they thought of calling it Enemy Mine Part 2.
Might as well have. Enemy known mine. Yeah.
Well, all right. See you next week.
All right.